Hello, welcome back to CBR MTG. My name is Angus Mackay. I'm joined here with Jake Sims.
Hey guys.
And new guest, Pete Furman.
Hey guys.
Well, hey Pete, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
We're playing Modern tonight with Sylvius Leonard on Scapeshift and Luke Burow on Jeskai Control. This was at our monthly Modern tournament at the Games Capital in Canberra. We're a pretty big turnout. I think we had nearly 30 people there at that point. So it was 5 rounds, cut to top 8, and it's good times had by all. We see Sylvius deciding to keep his 7 as Luke, and Luke leading off with the Steam Vents going into Serum Visions. How do we feel about this deck? It's very different to what I've seen coming out of Jeskai Control.
I'm a really big fan of it. I've played a lot of blue-white control over the last couple of years, and I think I'll still stick with blue-white, but the Jeskai deck has a remarkable ability to just turn the corner really quickly, and it's got a lot of the cards I like seeing in a control deck, your cryptic commands, your logic knots, that sort of thing. But the ability to bolt, snap, bolt, and turn it around, get on the offensive is a really powerful tool.
Yeah, you can definitely see the difference between blue-white and Jeskai just because of that ability to just turn into an aggro deck if they need to.
Exactly.
And Bolt is a hell of a card.
Well, there was that period where it wasn't really seeing a lot of play in Modern because people just thought it wasn't very good.
That was when Fatal Push was brand new to the meta.
Exactly. Push came in, everyone thought Bolt's terrible.
And we're seeing exactly what you said, Pete, with turning the corner. Geist of St. Charles coming down on turn 3. This could honestly be a win con for this deck.
It definitely is. I think Luke plays. I think he plays the 3 Geists main, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And just slamming a turn 3 Geist, especially against the Scapeshift deck, they've got no way to answer it. Sort of just outside of just chumping for eternity, which these Sakura Tribe Elders will do a pretty good job of, but they still can't get in the way of that Angel token, which is the problem.
I'm wondering if you actually just at this point double block with the Tribe Elders and just lose the ability, or are you spending 2 turns chumping the Geist and using... Ooh, okay.
And yeah, Sylvius, I think I like that line.
Okay, he's definitely putting himself at a tempo disadvantage, but it looks like Luke had...
Luke's just blowing him out.
Luke was prepared for that, yeah.
Yep.
So instead of doing that, he's just going to sack both immediately. He still negates that block, but he will take 4 from the Angel token, putting him just at 16. So he's still fine. I think the good thing about Scapeshift decks is that it's okay with doing nothing for the first few turns, and then once it builds up its mana, it just goes off immediately.
That's what I think. I think Scapeshift decks generally it is a very linear it's a linear deck with it wants to do the same thing every game, and its ability to just sit there and do nothing, kill you, is really, really its main strength.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes cards like Spell Pierce and perhaps even Logic Knot just kind of really bad.
Yeah. Because
you're not casting Scapeshift with 4 lands on the battlefield. You're casting Scapeshift when you've got 7 or 8.
At least.
You're going for lethal. With Sylvius's deck is pretty stock standard. We see 4 Scapeshift, 4 Primeval Titan. This is the deck playing the Prismatic Omen. For anyone who doesn't know, it's an enchantment that makes all lands every basic land type. So it kind of turns on Valakut a little bit more and stops you from having to just get mountains when you're going off with Scapeshift. I think is probably better for maybe the later game when you're trying to go off, but you've already fetched up all your mountains.
Yeah, the ability for any land in your deck to be a bolt is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in matches like this where it might grind out if Sylvius can sort of stabilize the board a little bit.
Absolutely. And we see Luke just being so aggressive. Like, Sylvius is on the back foot right now, He might have to even... because Valakut can target creature or player, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he might have to take out that Snapcaster Mage just to stay ahead, but it depends on what's in his hand. He did play that Explore, which let him draw a card and play another land for turn, but I think he might be fine to just try and go off now.
That Explore's been really good just then because it's allowed him to play another Valakut and then into a Stomping Grounds, which gives him 2 Valakut triggers, allowing him to bolt Luke. I assume he's going to...
I assume he's just going for face
both
at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I think game one, this matchup is looking very much just like a race. Whoever can sort of put the quickest clock on, like the Scapeshift deck's going to try and just linear its way to victory. Whereas
it looks like we just aimed a Valakut trigger at Snapcaster. Probably fine. He might be feeling pretty on the pump.
I guess it must depend on... I can't quite see Sylvius' hand here. I think the context of his hand is definitely what's dictating his play here.
Absolutely.
Is like you'd need like a prime time or something to really quickly close this out.
We see Luke fetching up a steam vents, signifying the end of Sylvius's turn. He still had some stuff in his hand, but I think he might be a bit choked on green mana at this point, because I'm pretty sure there's another Farseek in his hand. So, I mean, do you just play them all at once? Like, I guess if your opponent's tapped out and is playing a pseudo control deck, then you probably just want to be playing as many cards as you can get away with.
Yeah, I think the way you beat these control decks is just you build a critical mass of spells and just throw them at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the control deck, I don't think Luke's list plays too many good cheap counters. I see 2 Logic Knots and 2 Spell Snares and 3 Cryptics.
Okay.
Like, Cryptic Command is obviously, the powerhouse card of the deck, but he's only representing, obviously, 1 Cryptic here.
Yeah.
And
another point that makes this deck sort of like a little bit tasty, a little bit interesting, and actually, like, I mean, it helped Luke out a lot because he did very well this night, but I feel like having Cryptic Commands is even bizarre for a sort of Jeskai tempo deck, right? Because of the high blue cost is blue to get out there, but I mean, whatever works, right?
Like, yeah, the triple blue on Cryptic is always the hard part, but I guess in a format with fetch lands and you've got Steam Vents, you've got Hallowed Fountains, you've got easy access to the triple blue if you need it, especially if you're sort of not, you don't have to play around Blood Moon or anything like that, for instance.
Sure.
Just the raw power level of Cryptic is usually worth it, I think.
Okay.
One thing that's drawn my attention in Luke's list is a single copy of the main deck's Settle the Wreckage. This has been a standard all-star, and it's really good to see it pop up in Modern. Just being able to path to exile all your opponent's attacking creatures is just phenomenal. Like, it's so good against the Death Shadow decks. It's good against Affinity, any like low to the ground aggressive creature deck, and yeah.
It's definitely a card I'm looking forward to testing. As my blue-eye control list is pretty standard. I've got the 3 main deck verdicts with a Wrath of God in the sideboard. I really think the instant speed of Settle is going to make it a very powerful effect. Just because it's a Path of God, as I call it. A lot of decks in Modern are incredibly greedy and aren't playing enough basics and don't sort of respect the card.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is, quite a new card and possibly even a meta call from Luke. Settle the Wreckage, 2 white instant speed. Exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search his or her library for that many basic lands, put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. I think he might side those out.
Just maybe.
In this game, where it could actually lose in the game, he might side it out. But
if you're lucky, it might catch a prime time or something like that. But just it seems very dead.
The Valakut deck isn't generally killing you with combat damage.
No,
that's true.
No, that's it.
I love it in main board actually. Now that I'm thinking more about it, just because the downside is not really a downside. Like you're like in a heavily aggressive format. Like you might eat it a little bit to burn, but even burn only plays like 2 or 3 basic lands, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I think with the way Modern looks at the moment, because you've got humans is now the sort of the darling of the format. Everyone's really big on sort of the go wide strategies.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you mentioned before, Gus, Death Shadow.
Yep.
Is just being able to deal with the Death Shadow and just sort of leave them with no real upside is fantastic, or even a board full of them.
Oh yeah.
It also helps clean up some of the big delve threats that are currently like Tasiga, Gurmag Angler, the big delve cards of the format.
Yeah, and with the go wide strategies like tokens and Affinity especially, I play 1 basic land in my Affinity deck, and that's pretty much stock standard, so he's not losing anything from playing that card.
Just looking at the sideboards, Sylvius has got 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Ancient Grudges, 1 Shadowstorm, 1 Creeping Corrosion, 2 Inferno Titans, 2 Bailots, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, and 1 Fracturing Gust. To me, the standout seems to be the Anger of the Gods. It is a very clean answer to Spell Queller. and the Geist, which was such a big key factor that Luke was playing Descent.
Absolutely.
Other than that, nothing really stands out to me.
He might bring in a Graph Digger's Cage. Possibly. I mean, it turns off his... No, it doesn't turn off his Summoner's Pact, does it? Because it just puts it into your hand.
Yeah, you can pact around a cage. The cage does turn off Snapcaster Mage, which I think is his biggest consideration in bringing it in.
Yeah. I mean, just the power of, like, Bolt Snap Bolt is so huge. You know, like, it might be worth spending a card slot or two to just take out that ability for him. Yeah. Also, it turns off Logic Knot if he has it. He does have 2 in his main board, as we can see, but... Oh, wait, no.
No, it doesn't turn off Knot. Knot's just a delve spell.
Yeah. Luke, on the other hand, is running 3 Stony Silence, 3 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Pia and Kia Nalar, 2 Supreme Verdict, 2 Negate, 1 Disdainful Stroke, a Wear and Tear, and 1 Jace Architect of Thought.
What do we like?
Yeah, like Luke also hasn't packed a lot for this matchup. The only thing I could really think of, maybe the 2 Negates and maybe the Disdainful Stroke. Negate just countering any ramp spell that Sylvius might throw out. But yeah, like they don't have a lot of hate for each other in this matchup.
I definitely like the Stroke. The Stroke just catches, like it catches prime time. And the game
captures spells Scapeshift as
also
well.
Scapeshift,
Yeah.
also is correct.
Yep.
If he had seen Prismatic Omen in game 1, you could maybe make a case for Wear Tear, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think you've got enough.
Definitely reasonable.
You've got your Logic Knots, and you've got your Cryptic Commands, and now, if we're correct, the Negates to catch that. I think a single narrow answer isn't where he wants to be.
In terms of like things to take out, what are you guys liking for Luke?
I could see the Spell Snares probably coming out. Like you might catch a ramp spell, but I think
Settle the Wreckage definitely comes out. Maybe he trims 1 or 2 Path to Exiles. There's not a lot going on.
Not a whole lot. No. Yeah. We see them both drawing their opening hands for game 2. I definitely see a Spell Queller and a Path to Exile in Luke's hand. So he obviously didn't side out all of his Path to Exiles. Path is like a funny one, right? Because like it gets prime time before he uses his ability, which is good. But like besides that, you're kind of not really using it on anything else.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if it comes in handy. I mean, just having it sit in your hand, it's like pretty low. Pretty low risk for him to just hold on to it until something happens.
It's never a card you're that unhappy to see. Like
answering
the Titan is still something you have to do. If you let them have a Titan, the Titan gets to swing rather. The game pretty much ends on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, seeing very slow starts from both sides. I think that's a Cinderglade on Sylvius's side.
Yep.
Just comes into the battlefield tapped at all points. Is that correct?
No, unless you control 2 or more basic lands.
Okay, cool. I was thinking of Sheltered Thicket. There with the one with cycling.
Yep.
I believe he plays this as well, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he doesn't.
Looking at Sylvius's list, I have seen them before, just for the fact that it's a mountain subtype is like relevant. But look, we're seeing sort of both generic starts from Luke's side and Sylvius's side. I think it's very interesting. Luke's deck is not like the tempo decks that I've seen before, especially because of like Colonnade and Settle the Wreckage scream control.
Yes.
Like we have it listed up above as Jeskai control, but almost all Jeskai controls are more like Delver sort of decks where you're like sticking a Geist or you're sticking a Spell Queller on turn 3 and then you're just like
to victory.
Riding it to victory, exactly right. Using removal spells and counter spells and such. But like now we're seeing like big expensive things, like especially like Cryptic Command and Settle the Wreckage as like screams control. But I mean, maybe it's good to just have a little bit of both. Like, I mean, a Colonnade is very rarely a bad card as well.
I think Colonnade is... it might be a contentious opinion, but I think Colonnade is the best of all the manlands just because of, one, it's just raw, it's a 4/4 vigilant flyer that just hits like a truck. The ability to, more importantly, animate it and attack, and then being able to use it to cast a Path to Exile or a counterspell is hugely relevant.
So good in a control,
Yes.
in a control deck. We saw a very nice play from Sylvius and Luke, just going straight from, I think it was Sakura Tribelder. It was Farseek. Sorry, yeah. Farseek, Spell Queller. We let that resolve, and then we bolt the Spell Queller. Like, it's it's funny just how much of a role Lightning Bolt plays in even combo decks. You know, like this is just his removal. You know, this is such a perfect card for him when he can't go off with Valakut, because he's like just doing this sort of like grindy control-y thing where he's stopping these spell quells from happening. He throws a couple at the face. He might hit a Snapcaster Mage, but like it's just a nice card to have in your hand. Same with what we were saying before about Path to Exile. It's just like never really upset to have one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I really like Sylvius' position here at the moment.
absolutely. Ooh, straight up Primeval
Just
Titan.
going for it.
How are we going to see this? Okay,
Okay.
straight for the
With
path.
the ETB on the stack, he's going to
Yep.
Path to Exile. It's a clean answer, but not entirely, because he's going to get a Valakut trigger off of the land that he searches up from the Path to Exile.
Yep.
Because Valakut is live, he already had 5 mountains in play.
So both the Valakut and the Mountain come onto play at the same time.
Yep.
So he's, if I'm not mistaken, he still gets the 2 triggers from the Valakut. So each one. So he's going to get 3 at the moment. So that's 3 shocks, and he's just passing the hand straight to there. So, I mean, Path to Exile it stopped him from losing more. Like he may have had something, or like Sylvius may have not have been in that position, or like things could have happened, but just casting the Primeval Titan did him wonders, you know. We're seeing coming out with the Wood Elves and the Reclamation Sage, probably very decent. Wood Elves just seems, it seems fine, right? I probably wouldn't mind having Wood Elves in or out, but it's just like something that you can.
It's not bad. It's a little bit of extra ramp. Just it's a little bit on the slower side.
Yeah, sure.
And it obviously Anger is the far better card in this matchup, which Sylvius saw. And
Absolutely.
You trim the singletons or the less relevant cards, I guess.
We're seeing Settle, Engineered Explosives, and Path to Exile come out of Luke's side. 2 paths, so he seems to be sort of thinking on the same level as what we were thinking before about Settle the Wreckage. We didn't mention Engineered Explosives, but definite obvious
dead
includes,
card.
dead card. Something that we actually haven't mentioned coming up to this as well. Is this is a main deck card, the Engineered Explosives. I think probably anticipating a lot of affinity and tokens, and I mean there was a lot of Jeskai in the room, if I'm not mistaken, just sort of a lot of control-y decks, but there was a couple of affinities and there was a tokens, so Engineered Explosives can be heavily justified, I think.
Yep.
It's
I'm
never
keen
a
to see
bad
what he
card.
took out. Like he's cut 6 cards from the main board. Like maybe he brought in the Pioneer Lars just as like a way to like push through some extra damage, like before Sylvius tries to go off.
Possibly. He definitely brought in the negates. I
Yep.
can probably guarantee that he brought in the Disdainful Strokes. You see him leave 2 paths in. He looks like he took out a Geist and a Spell Queller. Seems... I guess he's just trying to win as fast as possible. He's trying to stop Sylvius from winning as fast as possible, so that was probably his reason for taking out 2 sort of more aggressive cards. And we're seeing him bringing in the negates and the Disdainful Strokes. Great job by both players. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and always stay tuned for more Modern and Legacy footage in the future.